He thought his secret was safe in another language, but he didn't know his wife was listening to every single insult. What will be next? Watch till end. The clinking of ice in Gregory S. whiskey glass was the only sound in the living room before he spoke. Relax, Gregory laughed into his phone, leaning back on the expensive leather sofa. He glanced at his wife, Felicia, who was quietly folding laundry. He switched seamlessly to French, a language he wielded like a weapon. Talking in front of her is like talking to a brick wall, except the wall doesn't fetch my drinks. Felicia didn't flinch. Her eyes stayed locked on the television. I heard you, Felicia thought, her face perfectly still. I've heard you for 3 years. What Gregory never bothered to ask when they met was anything about her childhood. He saw a black woman from the South Side who worked as a waitress to put herself through night school, and his assumptions wrote the rest of her story in his mind. He didn't know that her grandmother was from Guadeloupe, or that French was the first language spoken in her childhood home. For 3 years, Gregory used French to hide his affairs, mock her intelligence, and boost his own ego right in front of her face. And for 3 years, Felicia bided her time, saving every dollar she could, waiting for the perfect moment to walk away. That moment arrived on a Friday night at L'Étoile, the upscale restaurant where she worked. The kitchen was in absolute chaos. Mr. Caldwell, the owner, was pacing frantically near the prep stations. Laurent Deveau, a celebrated, notoriously demanding winemaker from Bordeaux, had just arrived for an exclusive tasting event with the city's top investors. The agency translator had just called in sick. "We are ruined," Caldwell muttered, rubbing his temples. $50,000 in potential wine contracts tonight, and I can't even offer the man a glass of water in his own language. Felicia untied her apron and placed it carefully on the counter. She walked up to her boss. "Mr. Caldwell," Felicia said softly. "Permettez-moi de vous aider, je parle couramment français." "Allow me to help, I speak fluent French." Caldwell stared at her, stunned by her perfect, effortless accent. "My wife left a spare black blazer in the closet. You're no longer waiting tables tonight. You are the voice of this restaurant." By 9 p.m. the dining room was electric. Felicia stood at the head of the VIP table, radiant and commanding. She wasn't just translating. She was explaining the complex notes of the Bordeaux with passion. The terroir of this vintage, Felicia translated to the wealthy investors. Locking eyes with Laurent Deveau, who was beaming with respect, is characterized by a fierce resilience. It survives the harshest frost to produce something beautiful. At 9:45 p.m. the front doors opened. In walked Gregory. He was there for a client dinner, wearing his best suit, oozing the arrogant confidence he always carried. He scanned the room for his usual booth, and stopped dead. She was commanding a table of millionaires, laughing with a French aristocrat. Gregory's face flushed with a mixture of confusion and sudden irrational anger. He couldn't stand seeing her elevated. He stormed across the dining room floor, interrupting a billionaire mid-sentence, and grabbed Felicia tightly by the elbow. "What are you doing?" Gregory hissed, reverting to his secret weapon, French, assuming no one else at the table would care or understand. "Tu es une serveuse. Ne t'embarrasse pas devant ces gens. You're a waitress. Don't embarrass yourself in front of these people. Go back to the kitchen." The entire table went dead silent, his eyes narrowing at Gregory's grip on Felicia's arm. Felicia looked down at Gregory's hand. Then she looked up into his eyes. There was only a cold, sharp finality. When she finally spoke, she didn't use French. She used English, projecting her voice so that every single client, investor, and waiter in the room could hear her clearly. "Take your hand off me, Gregory," she said, her voice echoing off the high ceilings. Gregory blinked, dropping his hand, suddenly aware of the eyes on him. "I have understood every single word you've ever said about me," Felicia continued, her voice steady and piercing. "Every joke you made to your friends while I sat next to you. Every phone call to your mistress you thought I couldn't comprehend. Every dinner party where you mocked my background. I understood all of it." He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "You thought using another language made you superior," Felicia said, stepping closer to him, forcing him to step back. "But the only language you never bothered to learn was respect." The silence in the restaurant was absolute. At the head of the table, Laurent Deveau, the celebrated winemaker, slowly lifted his wine glass 2 inches off the table, giving Felicia a silent, solemn salute. Mr. Caldwell stepped out from the shadows of the hallway. He looked at Gregory with utter disgust. "Sir, I believe your dinner is canceled. Show yourself out." Gregory looked around the room. Not a single face offered him sympathy. Stripped of his secrets and his pride, he turned and walked out the door alone. It shut behind him with a soft, final click. Felicia took a deep breath, smoothing her blazer, and turned back to the table with a flawless smile. Mes excuses, messieurs, où en étions-nous? My apologies, gentlemen. Where were we? The epilogue. When the night finally ended and the last guest had left, Caldwell asked Felicia to sit down at a corner booth. Sitting across from her was Laurent Deveau. Caldwell slid a piece of paper across the table. It wasn't a paycheck. Monsieur Deveau is expanding his export business to the United States, Caldwell explained, a proud smile on his face. He told me he refuses to do it unless he has a director of operations who understands both the wine and the art of putting arrogant men in their place. Felicia looked at the paper. It was an employment contract. The salary was 6 times what she made waiting tables, with full relocation expenses to an executive office in Paris for training. She picked up the pen, signed her name, and finally, for the first time in 3 years, truly exhaled.